This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
Brought to you by my good friends at Champion Salon and Barber. I'm due. Let's see, this beard's just getting bushy. It's getting bushy. I gotta go get it taken care of. 2 locations, Waco, Woodway, in downtown. Just check out the website, championsalonandbarber.com, and book your appointment. I get the Champion with beard trim. That's what I get.
Apparently not lately.
Oh, not in 3 weeks. So, gotta see Lorraine. That's where I gotta see.
Lorraine?
Yes.
Okay.
She takes care of me. Top 5 assistants ready to be head coaches. Number 5.
Just name 5 Alabama assistant coaches.
I'm not going to do it. I did for Beer Smoker.
Okay.
We didn't do it. And I wasn't. The thing is, I could do the top 5 Alabama assistants, and that would be that are going to be head coaches in 2 years. But number 5, Brent Venables at Clemson. I think it's time for Brent Venables. The offense has fallen off. The defense has stayed the same. After he got run out of Oklahoma, he's reinvented himself. I want to see Brent Venables as head coach somewhere.
Craig, has Oklahoma's defense, and I know that they've gone through some stretches, hasn't it been any good since he left?
It's pretty good right now.
Yeah, Grinch has turned that screw a little bit to tighten them up.
No, I think that Oklahoma fell into a pattern of it was a national championship or bust, which is pretty much what that program is. I mean, they're one of, there's blue bloods, and I think that there's also another a level you could separate. Oklahoma's in that top level with your Ohio States and your Notre Dames and teams like that, but. No, I mean, Alex Grinch, I think, has done a pretty good job overall, but there was a stretch there where, they were struggling, and even Venables was struggling a little bit, and, struggles for Venables were nothing in comparison to actual struggles for other football teams, but the standard is so high that it's not good enough, and maybe they needed to make a change. I don't know, but he's a damn good defensive coordinator. I know that some of it's been his own doing as far as wanting to stay at Clemson versus really pursuing other jobs. He's always been linked to that K-State job, but obviously they went with Kleiman, and I think that was a terrific hire. I think K-State's going to be really good for the long haul with Kleiman, but yeah, it's been curious to see him just remain out there, and you'd have to think that at some point in time he's going to want to make that jump, but at the same time, I don't know what he said most recently about head coaching desires and whatnot. I've always been under the assumption that he wants to be a head coach, but he's got a pretty good gig. And I can understand that maybe being a head coach and having to deal with everything from the top on down is not something that everybody wants to do,
And Clemson's problem's not their defense.
No, that's why I said he's ready. I kept Tony Elliott off this list intentionally because maybe he's got more problems than I realized. Number 4, Kendall Brown at Arkansas. I don't think Kendall is maybe ready necessarily to be the head coach at another SEC school or a Big 12 school, but a North Texas is right up his alley.
And unfortunately, Seth Luttrell, they're struggling.
Yeah, but I'm just talking a school that size. Texas State, that's a good spot for Kendall Briles. That's a good spot for him to prove it. I know that his last name is going to keep him out of it, and his association, the fact that he was here during that. I just think he's ready. I think he's shown adaptability.
I don't think it's going to be a Texas State or someone. I think it'll be bigger than that. I just do. I just think that because of where he's been and what he's doing, it might be a little bit larger than that.
Yeah, I mean, Kendall is bound to be a head coach at some point. I mean, I don't think there's any question about that. I don't know, though. I mean, the timing would lead you to believe that, he could probably go jumpstart at Texas State or someone like that right now, but also not a bad idea. I mean, we've seen plenty of coaches who wait their time, and Pittman at Georgia. Remember we were just talking about that the other day and then how he could have gone so many different places, but Saban's like, no, just stay here, wait for the right opportunity, and then jump on it. And look, here you're at Georgia rather than having taken the Louisiana Tech job just to say you're a head coach, So I think Kendall can be a little bit selective. But I do anticipate him becoming a head coach at some point one day.
And it's funny you mentioned Pittman at Georgia, who went to Arkansas, where Kendall Brown is, because the next one is Dan Lanning, the defensive coordinator at Georgia. Yeah. Young guy. We talked about it the other day with Chip Towers. I say these guys are ready to be head coaches. Doesn't mean they're going to be it in the next year, but they're ready. If you're going to hire somebody, I think Dan Lanning would be one heck of a hire.
We were at the Sugar Bowl, covered that game. Georgia hammered Baylor. They were better. Those 2 assistant coaches, both of them that we saw that were there other than their head coach in Kirby Smart, were both impressive.
Yeah, they were. And that defense is so ridiculous, man. It really is. It's so ridiculous how good that defense is. So, I'm sure his name is going to be mentioned quite a bit in this upcoming cycle.
Number 2, Marcus Freeman from Notre Dame. This is a guy, I know that Notre Dame's defense isn't probably as good as his defense at Cincinnati was a year ago numbers-wise. He's a guy whose personality I really like, his enthusiasm, the way
he is,
that
go
he's
for
adaptability. He's go for broke.
Blitz and the band's going to play.
I think he will. I think he'll do really well as a head coach. I think people are going to want to come and play for him. So and I think he's probably another year or so at Notre Dame away from this opportunity, but I think he's ready. I do.
Yeah, I didn't know much about him, honestly. And then, of course, with how our show has grown and changed a lot. And then, of course, Notre Dame off to a couple of nice starts. But he is he is a little crazy when it comes to and it's hurt him a little bit, but I hear a lot of great things about him.
Well, I mean, he's been raised up right. Luke Fickell is he was part of the Cincinnati staff with Fickell. Got to see each other play against each other last weekend, which worked out in Fickell's favor. But yeah, Marcus Freeman's one of the good assistants out there, and sure, yeah, absolutely a guy that should be in line for some jobs.
And number 1, Mike Elko at Texas A&M. This is a guy who's keeping this team afloat right now. A&M is in games because Mike Elko's defense is nearly as good as it was back in the Wrecking Crew days at A&M.
We had that graphic yesterday about the stop rate, right, with Georgia at the top 93% stop rate. But A&M was still among the top 5 or 6, despite they did get Mike Leach kind of riddled them a little bit.
Yeah.
But their problem is not the defense.
A&M's problem is their offensive go rate. Their offense doesn't go anywhere. It's stopped by the other guys.
Speaking of which, interviewed John King, Longview football coach, about his son Haynes, and he's talking about how he's never missed anything in his life, but that he feels like, he told me this, I'm sure it's been reported by those who cover A&M, that he still might be able to play significant time before the end of the season. Now it's going to be too late because they're about to lose to Alabama and start the conference at 0-3.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting list, Paul, and there's obviously only room for 5. There's others out there that will be of interest, but yeah, I mean, I'm fascinated to see where Kendall's journey eventually takes him, and Venables, and whether or not he just finally decides, you know what, I am going to lead my own program. But yeah, I mean, all 5 of those guys, I'm sure we'll be talking about as head coaches within the next 3-4 years.
Yeah, and Venables still. All these guys are still relatively young guys. I'm not doing the David Culley to the Texans
Dan
thing.
Lanning's only 35, I think, so he's still quite young.
Yeah. So yeah,
and Kendall's in that vicinity too. He might be a little bit older. I think.
When will Jeff Grimes be on that list?
He might be ready as well. I mean, really. I mean, he
well,
might.
Can we see the offense operate well?
Yeah,
I mean,
let's see it again at another
get
place.
the offense going again.
Yeah.
Let's see that this weekend against West Virginia and their nasty defense. I mean, forget head coaching jobs and all of that. That offense needs to bounce back in a major way, and the challenge is not. I mean, you think about Iowa State, Oklahoma State, and West Virginia. I'm sure that like Bama or Georgia or somebody will point to their stretch and the defenses they play. That's a pretty salty stretch of defenses that have to play this year. Is Iowa State, Oklahoma State, and West Virginia back to back to back. That's pretty salty. So big challenge in front of Jeff Grimes this weekend.
Yeah, and it's amazing where he was after the win against Iowa State first half, and then all of a sudden, wait a minute, what's going on here? They're going to be fine, and it's not going to be easy. Doesn't mean that they'll just go throw up 35 points against anybody. All right, for Armstrong Sims, Hayden Bumpus, that's twice this week in 1 week. Hayden Bumpus